Super Bowl. Super Bowl. Super Bowl. Philadelphia Eagles are going to Super Bowl. Philadelphia Eagles are going to the Super Bowl. Absolutely incredible game that they played this past Sunday. Spanked with a capital S, capital P, capital A, capital N, capital K, capital E, capital D. Spanked the Washington Commanders. You know, watching that game on Sunday, the Eagles, I felt like they had this in them all along, and they saved their absolute best performance of the season thus far for when they really, truly needed it. From start to finish, really, from the very first play all the way until the end of the game, Eagles clearly demonstrated that they were the superior team. When we lost that game to Washington back in December, it was a frustrating loss. It was a loss that, you know, at the time really really put a damper on Eagles fans, myself included, because I was upset that we lost that game. But I don't know if I said it at the time, but I'll say it now. Sometimes you need a loss like that to really to to really wake you up out of your to really bring you back down to earth and help you refocus. And that's what I think that loss did for the Eagles. That a December loss to the Commanders was probably the best thing that could have happened to the Eagles. Up to that point, we were we were coasting. We were beating teams. We hadn't lost a game in almost 3 months, and we were just getting teams up out of the stadium with relative ease. And we started that game out beating up on Washington too, and then Jalen Hurts went down, the concussion, and that's what really catapulted the Commanders to come back into the game and us. And in that loss, in retrospect, was probably a blessing in disguise for the Eagles because who would have thought that we would have to play them again in the playoffs with a trip to the Super Bowl on the line? The Commanders, the Commanders, and before I go on any further, I'm just going to give them a little bit of credit. Um, the Commanders, they're a good football team. You know, we've called them, or they've been called. I've called them in, uh, you know, conversations and jokingly. I jokingly refer to them as the Commodores, but now they have my attention, and I'm sure they have the attention of the rest of the NFL now that they are a very good football team. Jaden Daniels, who, as far as I'm concerned, he's the offensive rookie of the year. Um, he's the real deal. He's a problem. He's going to be a thorn in the Eagles' side for the next 10 years, if not longer. Um, they've got a really good team, and Jaden Daniels is the centerpiece of. It. He's only going to get better. He's got a great coaching staff around him. Um, Cliff Kingsbury, he got the most out of him, and Dan Quinn, I think he's a solid head coach, and I think that they're only going to get better as the years go on. They're no doubt going to look to give him some more weapons. They're going to continue to build the offense around him, and he's going to give us problems. We're going to have our hands full with him for sure. So, um, much respect to the Commanders. I mean, they really came out of nowhere. Division that had the Eagles and the Cowboys, jostling for um, supremacy over the last couple of years. Who would have thought that the Commanders would just um, uproot and shake things up in the division? Um, so I tip my cap to them. I look forward to the battles that we'll be having with them for NFC East supremacy in the years to come. Back to this game. Uh, the aforementioned Jaden Daniels, we made him look very, very ordinary. The defense for the Eagles today, or I should say on Sunday, outstanding. The way the game started off, uh, the Commanders had an 18-play drive, and that drive lasted 7, 8 minutes. About 18 plays. That's a lot of plays to be on the field, and that takes a lot of energy out of you. Um, and they were moving the ball. They converted a couple of fourth downs on us, so that was, I won't say concerning, but it was a little. It made you raise your eyebrows a little bit. Um, so they moved the ball against us. Kind of got what they wanted early on in the game, but it was a huge thing for the Eagles to settle for three. Then, of course, we know what happened on the very next play of the on the first play of the very next drive. I'll get more into that in a little bit. Um, want to show love to the defense. The defense, 4 turnovers. They forced 4 turnovers. That game, that the way the defense played, and just seeing how guys are flying around to that was the definition of what a ball hawking defense is supposed to look like. Zach Bond, who honestly should be in strong consideration for Defensive Player of the Year. Zach Bond, Will Shipley, rookie out of Clemson, coming up, with clutch turnovers. Oren Burks stepping in for Nakobe Dean, Quinyon Mitchell. Not a single pick the entire season, and he's got 2 in 3 playoff games. We're getting key contributions from guys that you really didn't expect. Zach Bond, Oren Burks, Will Shipley. Will Shipley doesn't even play on the defensive side of the ball. His turnover came on special teams. But when you have a defense this good, everybody wants to contribute. Everybody wants a piece of the pie, so to speak. And they gave up some points there, but really the game was never in question because our defense came up with key turnovers at key points in the game. And 3 of those turnovers, Jaden Daniels wasn't even responsible for. You had the one, I believe, it It was on De'Ami Brown. I don't know if it was Zach Bond or Cooper DeJean who forced that fumble because it was kind of like a combined forced fumble between the two of them. So I'm not sure who is credited with that, but I know that Zach Bond was around the football. He was close by when the turnover occurred. So um, you know they were around the ball, and every time Washington tried to get something going or they had a little bit of momentum, we right away. The fumble, the forced fumble by Oren Burks when Austin Eckler caught that little pass there and fell down, and Oren Burks came up and just punched the ball out. That's what we need. That's what we look for when we talk about defense that are ball hawks. And I can't stress enough, and I've been doing it all season, particularly in the second half of the season, but I can't stress enough how good this defense has been. And then Quinyon Mitchell, I mean, Quinyon Mitchell, Terry McLaurin in that game back in December, Terry McLaurin got after him a little bit, but Quinyon Mitchell, you know, he locked him up. That one long touchdown that Terry McLaurin had, I don't even think that was Quinyon's man at that point. When Terry McLaurin lined up opposite Quinyon Mitchell threw the cuff on him. And I thought it was funny because Quinyon got the interception. He kind of like tipped himself, and then he mocked Terry McLaurin's um his little celebration there. That was pretty funny to see. But and then of course you got to show love to the defensive line. Jalen Carter. I mean, I've I really don't know what other kind of way you can describe him. Jalen Carter, he's a dog, literally. Like he's came from Georgia, but he's brought some of that attitude from those championship to the, and he's nasty and he plays with an edge, and I love that about him. He's a fixture in our defense, and I think that some of that has started to rub off on Jordan Davis. Now Jordan, I think he had a sack in that game as well. Now Jordan is starting to throw his weight around too. Jordan's starting to play with an edge to himself. Nolan Smith, Nolan Smith, man, I think he should be in the candidate for. I don't know if there's a most improved player, but Nolan Smith by far, without question, the most improved player for the Eagles this year. It's been such a joy to watch him come of age in his second year on the team, and he's only going to get better. Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, um, you know, that could be our defensive line fixture for the next 10 years. I mean, Josh Sweat, he's always been a good presence for us. He's going to continue to um he's going to continue to make life miserable for opposing quarterbacks as our designated pass rusher. But our we've got so much youth, man. We've got so much youth. That's the beautiful thing about this is that we have guys on our team that of course they were good in college. They had um they had made names for themselves in their college days, but guys that are 21, 22, 23 years old don't really know any better. We're playing with house money. These are guys that are going to be cornerstones of the Eagles defense for years to come. You know, um, and I'm not forgetting about Quinyon either, because Quinyon, he's locked in. He's locked in as our CB1. But Cooper DeJean, however you pronounce it, he's move him anywhere. He's like that he's like that queen on the chessboard. He can attack you in any number of ways. Solid against the run. We know he can defend. He can come up with timely playmaking for you. You know, he's just a football player. And then, of course, I mentioned our three on the defensive line: Nolan Smith, Jalen Jordan, um, and Keely Ringo. He made some appearances. He's gotten some heavy burn over the last couple of weeks. Man, that defense, man, our defense, number one in the league for a reason. And those guys are they're going to be problems that cause a lot of offensive coordinators to lose sleep because any one of them is capable of impacting a game for the. You love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. The defense balled out. They gave up 23, but Washington could have easily uh, had less than that. Outstanding by the defense. And then let's get to the offense. Saquon Barkley, man. I'm I can't even. I'm not even. I mean, of course, I love what I saw. 15 carries, a buck 18, three touchdowns. If he had, I would be more excited about this if he hadn't been doing it all year. But he's been doing this all year. Saquon's been the best player in the NFL for the better part of the year. It started in week one, and he hasn't lost a step yet. That first play, I mean, I talked little bit earlier about the Washington having that 18 play drive, thinking that they tired our defense out. You know, they're feeling good. They feel like they've got a little bit of momentum. And then Saquon, he catches a simple toss, simple pitch, and he takes it 60 yards. Doing all that, you take you spin had you have the ball for half of the opening quarter, only to go down by um only to go down 7-3 uh, after 15 minutes. That's got to be demoralizing. And I think even though the game wasn't over at that point, it had to mess with Washington psychologically because I know that they were intent on not letting Saquon take the game over, and they let it happen anyway on the first play of the game. Not even the first drive, not even, you know, 4, 5, 6 plays, 7 plays into the drive. The first play, at that point, they knew what time it was. They knew what time it was. They knew what was going to happen, and they couldn't stop it. They knew they knew that they were going to be in for a fight, and they couldn't stop it. 55 points. You get 55 points dropped on your head in the championship game, in the conference championship. That's that's ridiculous. Saquon Barkley, he is the best. I know he's probably not going to get the MVP. It's probably going to go to Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, both of whom are at home right now. If you call their house phone, they'll be home to answer it. They're probably going to get the MVP. But Saquon Barkley, he is me. He's the MVP of the NFL. I'll be shocked if he gets it, but then After about 10 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds of being shocked, I'll be like, okay, yeah, they got it right. Because Saquon has been far and away most the most important part of our football team. The way that he can turn a game upside down by himself. You think about all the 100-yard multi-score games that he has, the 200 yards games that he's had this year. I mean, I've run out of words to describe him as. I mean, I'm still in amazement at some of the things that he's been able to do this year, but I'm amazed, but I'm not surprised. That makes sense. I mean, it's like, uh, oh, Saquon ran for 200. That's just Saquon being Saquon. That's really the only way that I can describe it. Saquon being Saquon. He that's what he does. He runs routinely for 150, 175. He routinely threatens to rush for 200 yards a game by himself. Saquon being Saquon. And so looking back in hindsight, he probably could have got the record, but that's water under the bridge. We're in the Super Bowl, and that's more important. And speaking of Saquon had 3 touchdowns. Speaking of 3 touchdown games, Jalen Hurts, this is probably the best game that he's played since Super Bowl 57, a game in which he also threw for a touchdown to A.J. Brown, because he threw for a touchdown to A.J. Brown in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and he ran for 3 touchdowns in that game as well. And he had almost pretty much the same stat line scoring wise in this game. Jalen Hurts, he has in my well, he was already good with me because we were winning the game. But now Jalen Hurts, to he is him. Jalen Hurts is a guy that you can win with. You can win a championship. You can win a championship with him. 4 years as the Eagles starting quarterbacks, as the Eagles starting quarterback, 2 years in the Super Bowl, and now with a chance to win his first Super Bowl. And the narrative, the storyline that's behind it is just set up so perfectly. The Chiefs are trying to become the first NFL team to three-peat, to win 3 consecutive Super Bowls. Jalen Hurts pulls this off. He pulls off this upset. I don't think it would be an upset, but because the Eagles are 1.5 point underdogs, it will be considered an upset. And because of all the aura around the Chiefs and everything, if Jalen Hurts pulls this off, I, I don't know, man. He might be, his legacy might be set in stone. 5 years into his NFL career, Jalen Hurts might become an all timer. He is um, by far, um, I won't say by far, but he has put to bed any notion or any idea that he's not a big time quarterback, because he's been he saved his best game for when we needed it. Yeah, he was throwing for, 128 yards, 130 yards, 100 and some odd yards. He was, some weeks he was getting outrushed. Saquon was rushing for more yards than Jalen was throwing for. Yeah, but Jalen Hurts, we're winning with him. He's taking care of the football, not putting it in harm's way, and we're winning football games. And now, when we needed it, Jalen Hurts delivered with a big time performance. So everyone who's ever said that this guy stinks or he he he's not a franchise quarterback or he doesn't throw for yards, he doesn't play quarterback the right way, whatever they have said about him, nobody it's all moot now because I wins. 4 years as the quarterback for the Eagles, four playoff appearances, two Super Bowls, one um one he now has a chance to win his first. No. Oh, Jalen Hurts, he's good in the city of Philadelphia, as far as me, an Eagles fan, is concerned. Especially if he wins it, if he wins this Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts, he's all right with me. Everybody, everybody played such a good, clean game. AJ Brown, the touchdown. AJ Brown, I saw he was getting in Marshawn Lattimore's head too. Marshawn Lattimore knows he can't guard AJ Brown. He knows it. Uh, he was in his head, and Devontae Smith. He had a couple of big catches. Dallas Goddard. They drew up some plays for him. Everybody. This is an offense where everybody gets to eat. Everybody gets to you know gets to show what they're capable of. Offensive line, and I just want to give a quick shout out to our offensive line, particularly Landon Dickerson. Landon Dickerson, he willingly switched from guard to center. He had played some center in college, but he he had to he's a guard by nature, and so out of necessity he had to take over the center position, Cam Jurgens, and Landon got hurt, and man, I thought he was going to crumple down on the field a couple of times. He was laboring. He could barely walk on his leg, but he fought through it. And Cam Jurgens, he was active. He was kind of like the emergency center because he was dealing with back problems. But um, the sacrifices that those two guys were on the offensive line made, and we had Tyler Steen who was willing to come in there, but I'm specifically talking about Landon and Cam Jurgens. I just want to give a head nod to them because our offensive line, they're really the heartbeat of our football. Without them, without those five, Milata, Becton, Am, Landon, and the man himself, Lane Johnson, we really don't have any of the success. And they're true warriors. They're willing to lay it all on the line because of what's at stake. So I captured them. And just also we're giving shout outs. Nick Sirianni, I think we I mean Eagle fans too, but everyone who ever clowned Nick Sirianni, and I'm kind of guilty of it too because his first press conference here, the guy was it sounded like he was saying a whole bunch of nothing. He was talking in circles. No one knew what the heck he was saying. It was just like a bunch of jibber jabbers. Like, whoa, what is this guy's problem? But we as Philadelphia fans and pundits across the world, everybody owes Nick Sirianni a massive, massive apology because just like Jalen Hurts, all he has done since he came to the Eagles as our head coach back in January of 21, all he has done is win for us. His first year, I mean, first year head coaches, it's a little rocky. You have your growing pains, but he still got us to the playoffs. He still got us to the playoffs. And in the 3 years since then, he's taken us to two Super Bowls. Now, last year, even last year, he still won 11 games, but you know how last year ended. It was a dumpster fire toward the end of the season. But even then, it was still a winning season. And he's 4 years as our head coach, and he's had us relevant for all 4 years. Hasn't missed the playoffs yet, and now he's got a chance to become the second Eagles head coach to win a Super Bowl, and I think he will. Nick Sirianni, he deserves an apology, and like I said, Jalen Hurts is good here for the foreseeable future in the city of Philadelphia. Nick Sirianni, he's good as well. Nick Sirianni, he has my as far as I'm concerned, my opinion, Nick Nick Sirianni, he has by getting us to the Super Bowl, and especially if he wins it, it'll extend by a couple of years. Nick Sirianni, he's good for at least the next 3 years in the city of Philadelphia. And if he wins it, heck, he might have the job going into the next decade, into 2030, because he has accomplished quite a bit, and still more good things are coming. He's got the personality. He shows us who he is. He doesn't try to put on. He's not a phony. I've mentioned this before earlier in the year. Nick Sirianni, he shows us who he is. This is his personality. He's going to tell you what he thinks. He's going to show his emotion. He's going to bicker and banter with fans at certain points in the season. But this is who he is. He's not putting on for anybody, and he deserves our respect, and he deserves our praise. He's earned it. He's earned his way into Philadelphia sports lore, and leave Nick alone. leave, leave him alone, man. He's good. Don't try to don't try to don't don't try to rip him. Don't come for him. Don't he's good. He's safe here. They've got us to the Super Bowl. They've got us to two Super Bowls, and now we have a chance to win it. We have a chance to win a Super Bowl against a team that got away with one against us 2 years ago, Kansas City. Now, this won't be the last time that I talk about Kansas City. I'll have more shows recordings later on in the days leading up to the Super Bowl. But just my first glance, um, I think that we have a really good shot. I think we have a really good shot to beat Kansas City. Kansas City, listen, they have my utmost respect. Patrick Mahomes is an all timer at quarterback. He's top 10 quarterback of all time. Travis Kelsey, one of the three best tight ends to ever play the game. They've got a fundamentally sound defense. They're good. There's a reason that they're in three consecutive that they've won two Super Bowls and going for their third. You know, they're nothing to play with. Don't play with Kansas City. They're not the one. They're for real. But you know what? So are we. We are a good football team. We are for real too. We have our brand. Eagles have their brand of football that we like to play, and it's going to be a great matchup. Call this the we call this the revenge game. Our Super Bowl, we lost our first Super Bowl that we played to New England. We beat them the second time. We lost to Kansas City. You know how the rest goes. It's time for us to get our get back. And I know that this game is going to be broken down and discussed in great detail in the coming days leading up to Super Bowl Sunday in about 2 weeks. But you know what? It should be a good game, and I feel really good. I feel really good about our chances this one. Really do. I really do. It's two totally different teams. A lot of the guys that we have here were there for the Super Bowl in Arizona 2 years ago, but a lot of them weren't as well. And 26, man, Saquon, he's he's our not so secret weapon. He he's a man on a mission, and just like I've said all year, I'm glad he's on our team. Saquon Barkley, he's hungry. A lot of these guys are hungry, man. And seeing that Kansas City red makes them see red. I know it. I know it does. They're going to be ready to play. So, um, I'll have more recordings, more shows later on, talking about the game, talking about what to expect and what I think and what my final score will be. But that's just a little early preview of the of what I think. I think that we've got a good shot. We've got a really good shot. We're in the Super Bowl, man. This is incredible. I'm going to enjoy every bit of these next 2 weeks. Enjoying the radio shows, the talk shows, the TV stations, all of that good stuff. My team is playing for it all. Is playing for it all, and love to see it. You love to see it. What a time to be an Eagles fan. What a time. This is incredible. Super Bowl 59 is just around the corner, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Go Birds. Go Birds. We're in the Super Bowl. We are in the Super Bowl.